CP3 and HB40 added to the mix, what's going to happen to MB22 and BW14? What is up, San Antonio Spurs fans? Welcome to TSR Sports. Hope you're having a great day. Came across this article from Pounding the Rock, and they talk about Malaki, Branham, and Blake Wesley. Some folks we've been talking about lately. What's going to happen with their minutes, with the rotation? Let's get into the article. For the most part, the San Antonio Spurs have done what fans wanted them to do, in the draft and free agency. They drafted the potential point guard of the future in Stephon Castle and added veteran help at their weakest positions, point guard and forward in Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes. Just those additions alone have created some intriguing rotation discussions when looking ahead to next season. Yes, we recently did a video about the starting lineup in the depth chart. Whatever happens, the veteran additions certainly make the Spurs much deeper than last season. Agreed. With the second unit presumably led by Trey Jones, Kelvin Johnson, and Zach Collins, plus some combination of Castle, Barnes, or Champagnie. They feel Castle's probably not going to start right away. I don't think he is either. Not to mention, there's still 3 open roster spots to work with. Is it 3 or 2? I'm going to go with the 3 they have here, which the Spurs could use to bring in more depth or re-sign renounced players such as Sandro Mamakeliashvili, Charles Bassey, or Chetty Osman. I don't think Osman's coming back. The other 2, yes. That being said, I have found myself guilty of forgetting a couple of names. Pounding the Rock has found themselves guilty of forgetting a couple of names when speculating about the potential rotation next season. Malaki Branham and Blake Wesley. Let's break it down. In both of Branham's last 2 seasons, he got out to a slow start before turning things around. But last season still represented a bit of a sophomore slump for him. Although his three-point shooting jumped from 30% to almost 35%, the rest of his numbers went down, including his overall shooting numbers, points per game, and minutes played. He's not much of a playmaker, averaging just 2 assists per game, and for being drafted as a shooter, and being drafted, mind you, as a 3-level scorer. That's what I read about him before we took him, and saw about him after we took him. He hasn't shown us that yet. He has been more of a part of the Spurs' maligned offense the last 2 seasons rather than a solution. And it should also be noted, I know you guys are going to comment it down below, so I'm going to get it out there now. He is one of the absolute worst defenders in the league. I'm aware. I'm surprised they don't bring that up here, but it is what it is. As for Blake Wesley, nearly all of his numbers dipped in the regular season as well, with the only notable rise being in his 2-point shooting, which could only go up after a disastrous rookie season where he was in the bottom percentile of the entire league around the rim. And yes, Blake Wesley, I believe, shot around 30% from 2-point land his rookie season. Yes, he had the knee injury, but my man was getting blocked left and right that rookie season. It was awful to watch. I think he got blocked 4 or 5 times in one game. I had never seen anything like it. I like, man, Blake, what is going on here? So yes, he was going to improve there. He couldn't get any worse, could he? He remains raw and undisciplined, but his athleticism and defensive instincts do provide glimmer of intrigue. He also has great length for his height, I believe, as well. Under normal circumstances, we would be assuming that both Branham and Wesley will get their requisite 4 years to prove themselves and then go on from there. Unfortunately, due in part to a shifting timeline, one or both of them may not get that full opportunity. Add the fact that the Spurs could have anywhere from 2 to 4 first-round picks next year. They own their own and the Hawks pick, which is unprotected, plus potentially the Bulls' top 10 protected and the Hornets' top 14 protected. Hornets pick we all kind of agreed not going to convey. As well as 2 picks in 2027, and they could very quickly run out of roster spots for any young players who haven't proven themselves. Right now, of all the players still on rookie contracts, Branham and Wesley find themselves closest to that precarious position where they just don't have room. The Spurs have right up until 24 hours before next season starts to exercise the force team options on them and Jeremy Sohan. And while, yes, I agree, Sohan is a safe bet to be picked up, one or both of Branham and Wesley may not be so lucky. None of this is to say the Spurs should be giving up on either player. No, they should not. Definitely not. They each bring a unique skill set and still have another level they could unlock. But when the time comes to start trimming the roster to make room for upgrades, their weaknesses may be too hard to overlook. Neither has quite proven to be a reliable point guard, and neither are good enough shooters to help spread the floor at shooting guard. Of all the Spurs' young players, the pressure is on Branham and Wesley to prove themselves more than anyone else. And this upcoming season might be their last chance to earn a spot in the Spurs' future plans. Okay, that was a lot. All right, time for my 2 cents. Of course, drop your 2 cents below. I love hearing what you guys have to say. Malaki Branham. We established he's one of the worst defenders in the league. And last year, if you don't remember, Malaki in March had a 4-game stretch where I was so excited. I thought he finally turned a corner, at least offensively. In those 4 games, he averaged 20.3 points per game with shooting splits of 53, 58. 58% from 3, and that was 6 attempts per game. And 92%. 53, 58, 92. He was on fire. Finally, Malaki Branham is here. Well, nope. Next 4 games, 3.8 points per game. Splits of 21, 0, and 100. He was solid the last 8 games of the season, so that gives us some hope. He averaged 14.5 points per game with shooting splits of 48, 44, and 56. I don't know what happened to his free throws at the end of the season, but the 48 and 44, if he can put that up next season, yeah, the Spurs are going to keep him around. The D needs to improve, though. It needs to improve. Sure, the offensive production those last 8 games, he's a keeper, but he needs to show us some kind of improvement on defense. I mean, with the guys with Stephon Castle coming in, maybe he can show him something. I mean, Blake can start. I don't know. The defense needs to improve. Speaking of Blake, all right. So Blake Wesley from year 1, year 2. We've already talked about a little bit. A much improved finisher at the rim. Uses body much better to stop the defense from blocking his shots. Was actually finishing above the rim more often. And many times, he was the best defender in our second unit. He showed some defensive flair, for sure. Does not turn the ball over. He's very safe with the ball. And we already know he's fast. He is fast and so fast in transition. But he still can't shoot. His rookie splits were 32, 39. Actually, for 3, he was solid in limited action. And 59, he had the knee injury, so we'll take those stats with a grain of salt. But last season, his splits were 47, 22, and 67. I agree with you all that it's not all about the 3-point shot, but I don't think you can have a point guard or combo guard that's poor from 3 and can't shoot his free throws either. He's a liability on the court at the end of the game. That puts him in a tough spot. You got one guy. Really, if we could combine these 2 players, Malaki Wesley or Blake Branham, the double B, then we'd have a pretty solid player. A guy that can do some things offensively, is fast, doesn't turn the ball over, and can play some D. Ideally, I'd like to take these 2 and make a s'more, but that's not the case. They're individual players with a lot of faults. And I'm really skeptical if either one will be here after year 3 unless we see an improvement. They've got to make a huge jump in year number 3, Spurs fans. I would love them to see them to be Spurs for life. But I'm also not naive to the fact there's going to be a lot of players that are going to come and go during the Wemby era. It's just how it's going to be. Kellen Johnson's probably one of those players. Zach Collins definitely one of those players. We've already seen some players released. Chetty Osman. I mean, there's going to be a rotation, and we're going to have a couple mainstays. I think Stephon Castle is going to be one of them with him, and then there's probably going to be one more from next year's draft, and then everything else is going to be fluid. I like to see these guys succeed. Year number 3 is going to determine it, and I just don't know, looking at the depth chart, if they're going to be able to get the minutes to do so. I hope they do, and hope they prove us that they belong Spurs for life. Speaking of the Spurs, we'll be live tonight. Well, me and the Couch contingent at 10 p.m. Eastern. I forgot we're playing, but it's another game in the Southern League, so please feel free to stop by and say hi, or how are you, or an FU, whatever you feel like doing. Drop a comment down below. Which player do you think has a better chance of being here 3 years from now? Do you think both have a good chance of being here 3 years from now? Or do you think neither guy will be on this roster 3 years from now? Let me know in the comments down below. Hit the thumbs up to support the channel, and subscribe to become part of our awesome San Antonio Spurs community. Appreciate you, and as always, go Spurs go.
Ready to Wembley.